How's it going, hockey fans? Thank you for tuning in to the Posthuggers Podcast. I'm here today with Goldie, my co-host. How goes it today, Goldie?
Goes good. How are you doing?
Oh, I am on a Bobrobsky high. Hey,
Yes,
he is so much fun to watch.
he
Think about
is.
this, Goldie. 3 years ago, if we had said that Bobrobsky is going to lead the Florida Panthers and take them to a Stanley Cup Final 2 years in a row, how many people would wanted to have me committed?
Probably quite a few. I mean, I think 3 years ago he was looked at as one of the worst contracts in the NHL, and arguably some people were saying to send him down and even cut him. So those people are probably biting their tongues pretty hard right now. But no, yeah, it's definitely really fun to watch. Definitely has two goaltenders. We can appreciate really good goaltending, even though he's not on our team, and he killed our team. So, but no, it's definitely really fun to watch.
So, Goldie, who do we have in the crease today?
It's just us two knuckleheads.
Hey, you get both of us.
We
You guys are lucky.
you get an episode where it's just us two knuckleheads talking about the Stanley Cup playoffs and kind of what's happened so far in game one, and we're gonna give you some stats and statistics and talk about Bobrobsky's great play that got a shutout in game one.
Okay, they could make, a Stanley Cup video of, classic saves in the playoffs, and Bobrobsky's got two now.
This year, yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And by the way, Fanatics, for anybody that's looking out there, Fanatics, we're gonna be trying to get you here as a sponsor as well, only because I own like 5,000 jerseys. But we went ahead and got these beautiful pucks.
Yep. Yes,
Needed something to remind us about that absolutely ridiculous save.
And for those of you who are listening to this on the podcast, what Steve just showed was the puck with Bobrobsky's behind his back save he had against, I believe that was Tampa.
That was Tampa.
Yeah, the save against Tampa. This playoffs where he goes behind the back, he's completely beat out to lunch, and he somehow puts his glove hand back and gets it.
Well, it was the full, I don't even know what to call that. It's almost like I want to come up with one of those ice skating terms that will be completely wrong. He triple sow-cowed in the air and then turned around and threw the glove out to save that.
He decided.
I apologize to ice skating people. I just, for some reason, you always want to throw out sow-cow for whatever reason when you're talking about ice skating.
Yeah, he definitely he went into the backstroke. Let's say that he went into the backstroke there. He decided to become a swimmer for 2 seconds and made the save of the playoffs and the save of the year.
Yeah.
And then he decided last night that he was gonna make a couple more saves of the year, including a 2-pad stack where he comes flying across the net. And Steve, when we first got on this and we started talking about what we were going to talk about today, said, "I don't know if he got that." I go, "Yeah, he did." We will later show that clip from the NHL. We'll also link down below the full video from the NHL, so you guys can go and watch the magnificent saves that he has done this series so far.
That Bob save, by the way, Goldie, reminded me of Carey Price's save against Ovechkin. Coming across with the stick, Price's was in the last seconds of the game to secure the win, right?
Yeah.
But same type of save, coming across, double pad stack, desperation, stick coming on up, and then like I said, I didn't think he made the save. I was at a bar with a buddy watching the game that I hadn't seen in a while. And when I saw it happen, I will not repeat what came out of my mouth because we would have a very explicit rating on this podcast. But my God, what a save. And there, I was like, I didn't even care if he didn't make the save. I'm like, he got across and took away the net. So if they had fired over the net, it's because, hey, he was coming across and screwing with that player's head.
Yeah, and our partners over at DraftKings decided to make a big old post about it last night from the ice angle. Yes, he does get it with his stick. Yes, he does go vintage and goes into a 2-pad stack. So that is just unbelievable. That's just athleticism 101. And any goaltender coach out there, any coach, it's like, yeah, you got to play this style. No, you have to stop the puck. That is your job. I wish coaches would be more understanding of that is our job. I don't care how you do it, just do it. If more coaches were like that, I think more goaltenders would be in a better headspace than they usually are. So coaches, watch Bobrobsky. He's proving to everyone right now, it doesn't matter how you do it, you just got to do
it. The other thing is, so this is me from the goal, I'm assuming you've coached young goalies now.
Yep.
Some of it you want controlled play, right? You want to put a rebound into a spot where if you know you need to make another save, that you can quickly recover, get up, push, and get into position, right?
Yeah.
So what we're not saying is, be the Curtis Joseph of old, because a lot of Curtis Joseph, hey, again, fun goalie to watch. And Cujo, I'm not crapping on you, but one of the biggest criticisms that you're going to see of Cujo, and it does make sense, was sometimes he had to make that miraculous save. There's the book.
Yep.
Because he gave up a bad rebound or put himself out of position, right? But his ability to recover and make those saves was elite, right?
Yeah.
So, but I agree with you, Goldie, is, it's stopping it by any means necessary. And look, who was the king of doing that?
You look down the list. Hasek started it. I mean,
that's what Hasek, I was saying. I'm saying, he was the one that, you can imagine a goalie coach going up to Hasek saying, "You need to change your style of play."
They would not have won anything if he changed his style of play. And another guy that I would say that kind of revolutionized that kind of style was Mike Richter. Really overlooked in the Rangers history and really overlooked in the goaltending history at times. Not a lot of people talk about him, but he really revolutionized the game for goaltenders, and that make a save at all costs. Him and the Dominator both really just made goaltending an athletic specimen in the net. Whereas before it was very stand up. It was very, and it's like Steve said on a previous podcast, goaltending coaches are like, stand up more. No, stop the puck at any cost. I know that when I coach goaltenders, obviously you want their basics to be down. You want them to be sound in all levels. But I practice with my goaltenders, desperation saves, because you need to be uncomfortable to be comfortable in the uncomfortable times during games. The best athletes in the world, you look at all, any sport, they practice the uncomfortable things that are going to happen to them in games to make them that comfortable when it gets to that situation. Because if you're feeling great in a very, very tight, stressed situation, those are the people that are looked at as goats in their respective sports. So definitely.
And here's the thing too, is like I named a few goalies, and one's our favorite that switch things up with their positions to get better. At one point, Marc-Andre Fleury was struggling. Fleury was getting lit up over his shoulders. Like, he would drop, guys would wait. And, as a goaltending coach coaching shooters, if I saw a smaller goalie in a net and he had a tendency to drop, I'd say, look at the top of his shoulders. That's your target. Fire, because he's going to go down. And, goalie, making this kind of movement with your glove, not easy. Blocker, you're going to have that space. And if you're not tall enough and that angle's not cut down, because if you're in your net deep, that's a great place to fire on a goaltender. And for Fleury, they had it pegged. All of a sudden, Fleury comes back the next season, and Fleury's out further in his net. He's out further, and he's not dropping. And because he was pegged for those high shots. And I remember I had some great seats when I was an Arizona Coyotes season ticket holder. That still is so hard to say. But anyway, I got to watch Flower that season, and he came out. And again, they were coming in, they were firing high, and he didn't even move. He just went, just shrugged his shoulder a bit and didn't drop.
Yep. Yeah.
So he adapted, right? And we've seen Bobrobsky do it, this season. And you saw him in the playoffs. He sees that shot coming in, instead of dropping, he does that little bit of a lunge forward and tries to smack it, right?
Yeah.
And kudos to him, because if that hits, in between anywhere, that's going to hurt like an SOB.
Yeah.
And also moving into that shot, right?
And to go back to your point about Fleury, I was at a Kings game last season. Not this last season, obviously, where they got where Quick was still with them. And I saw the last game that Quick got a shutout for the Kings, and it was against Fleury. Fleury was in the other net, and it was a vintage battle between two great tenders. It was 0-0 going into the third, and it ended up being a 1-0 game. But vintage goaltending was on display there. You could tell that Fleury most definitely was playing more aggressive than he usually did. And it's kind of interesting to see the evolution of goaltenders as they age, right? Like, when they're in their 20s, they're flying out of their net. And, as they get older, they start kind of dropping back a little bit. You saw that a lot with Quick this year. I know their goaltending coach over in New York actually wants him to play deeper, which is a little interesting to me. But it worked. It worked for him, right? His game went to a whole new level. But the same thing is happening, I think, with Bobrobsky right now. Having the absolute legends of the game around him and having that goaltending department. I think they talked about it on ESPN when they were playing the Rangers, that they actually have a goaltending department, which that's a huge resource for goaltenders. Goaltenders without a goaltending coach, let alone a whole department, is a really bad thing. So getting a goaltender coach on the ice with him and, having a department of legends around him, that's all it's going to do is help him and help, their young goaltenders in the pipeline.
Who's up in the suites for the Florida Panthers? None other than Bobby
Roberto Luongo. Yeah, no. And that's,
by the way, Bobby Lou, need to get you on this podcast, buddy. Please.
Yes, no, 100%. We need you on the pod. But no, it's something where, that really, I think, helped his game. I think, that was kind of brought in 3-4 seasons ago. And I think that kind of took a few minutes to kind of get going there, to the point where it is now today. And I mean, you look at guys you have in your, depths, you have Spencer Knight there too. So
they're so, and like they traded Levi.
Yeah. Right? They traded Levi. Yeah,
they had so much talent for goaltending. And talk about smart. Okay, we're deviating a little off the path here.
Yeah,
but they're smart drafting sometimes. And if you draft a bunch of good goalies, you now have a great problem.
Yep.
So they had a great problem. They were able to piece together a really good team. One thing I am going to mention out here quickly is the GM Dave Talon does not get enough credit because he built the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah,
he built the Florida Panthers.
Yeah,
and then they moved him along. And just got to say, like, this guy, if you want to make a great footprint of a team,
bring him in.
He's not a bad dude to have in there because he made this footprint. And there's always bad takes on stuff. And one was, on Sasha Barkov, right?
Yeah,
he is, again, we said this in the previous podcast, probably one of the most underrated players in the entire game.
100%.
And again, he got 2 assists last night again?
Yeah, he had 2 assists last night. And like we said, he's the Anze Kopitar of the East Coast. I mean, that's both guys are very, very overlooked. Their game isn't flashy. Yeah, they have those moments of flash, but their game is very defense, offense, score goals, they're the old style of get gritty goals.
And, except though, if you get Barkov on a breakaway,
he's nasty. Yeah, but you get Kopitar on a breakaway, and he goes to that can opener, and goaltenders just can't stop it. I mean, it's
that's what I mean. When you said they're not flashy, you're right. Like their style of play,
they make it look easy. Let's just
that's it. They're so smooth on the ice because just that saucer pass that he made on over to Verhaeghe was another beautiful play. Yeah. And I want to address this really quick. Stuart Skinner didn't have a bad game yesterday.
No.
What was interesting is you didn't see this goal because you weren't you weren't watching the first period, but Bob goofed a little bit. Like he went to go fire a puck.
I did see that.
Well, you saw that, and it hit the stick and dropped.
Yeah.
He got back and he recovered, made a nice save. But right away, I was like, "Oh, Edmonton's going to keep pressing here," and they withstood it. Like that's the amazing thing too, right? And this is for any athlete as a goaltender. You've got to have a short memory. You make that mistake, let it go.
Yeah,
because if you're dwelling on what you just did, you're done for. So, So young goalies block it out. Everybody's going to make a bad goof. I don't know how many I made in my career,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter which level. You know when you drop the deuce in your crease. We can all see it, right? And that's the worst part about being a goaltender, right? Sasha Barkov makes a bad pass in the offensive zone. He's got 4 other players back that are backing him on up, right?
Yep. Yep.
To help on out, plus a goaltender that's there for the last resort.
Yep.
When the goalie makes a mistake, it is so visible because it usually results in a goal or a very, near missed opportunity.
Yeah, goalies either get way too much of the praise or way too much of the hate. There's no in between there.
And Jacques Plant's the one that said that. It's because how do you know when a goalie makes a mistake? You've got every fan in the building, booing you while a red light's shining behind you.
Yeah, no, and that's just so true. And every goalie is going to make a mistake. But what I forgot which coach told me this, but one of my old coaches said it takes 6 to score a goal. You have to beat 6 guys to score a goal. And I mean, that's the mindset that I go into every game with. Like, because if you go into a game with that mindset where you take a little bit of the pressure off yourself, you're going to play better. And I think that's kind of what you look at all the good teams that have won cups. Those teams are very unselfish. And I think that this is another very unselfish team that we're seeing here in the Florida Panthers. And honestly, I will say the same to the Edmonton Oilers, but I'm going to say it lightly because obviously you have Connor McDavid and Draisaitl that can completely take over a game if they want to. I think they needed to do that last night, and they tried, but by the time they tried, it was a little too late. Just going through some of the stats from last night's game.
Well, let's touch on the first one right here, which is the big one for me.
Yep.
Oilers went 0 for 3 on their power play, and that is the best power play in the NHL.
Yep.
And there's a reason behind it. The Panthers, you saw it in the Rangers series, right? They're good on the penalty kill. They'll give up an occasional one, but they're good. But Bob was locked in.
Yeah, Bob was locked in. He saved 32 of 32 shots against him. The shots on goal was apparent. The first period, Edmonton had 12 to Florida's 4. Second, 13 to Florida's 8. And then Edmonton 7 to Florida 6 in the third period, creating a 32 to 18 shot against differential. That really can't happen. That reminds me so much of last series where the Rangers played them, and it was that thing where they're being outshot, and me and you looked at each other and went, "Oh my God, this should not be happening." The Florida Panthers should be winning this game, and they didn't. They ended up losing in overtime. That's very reminiscent of that, except it's on the other hand now. Edmonton is a faster team than the Rangers were. I think the Rangers are a better team, but they were dinged up, obviously, than the Oilers were. But they're both in the Stanley Cup Final now. You got the face-offs, which is huge for me. I think face-offs. Yeah, face-offs are kind of an overlooked stat in my eyes a little bit. Florida won 59.6% of the face-offs to the Oilers 40.4%. So that's huge. That helps you, maintain control of the puck a little more. And I mean, you're winning 56% of the face-offs or 59% of the face-offs. You should be winning the hockey game.
But here's the other part of this that comes in. Penalty kills are huge. Your special teams always come into effect here. But these are the stats right here, goalie, that you always need to look at. Hits, 32 for Edmonton to 57 of the Panthers. So the Panthers know going into this. And this is the thing about this team, and this is why they're so well-rounded. They hit the crap out of you. They frustrate the crap out of you.
No time and space.
They stay on you. Block shots, 15 for Edmonton, 21 for the Panthers. Again, they're sacrificing and doing everything.
Yep.
The giveaways, 14 to 10 again, the 10 in favor of the Panthers, and then takeaways, 4 for Edmonton, 11 for the Florida Panthers. It's these type of things. This is that extra part of the game, right? This is the digging deep, knowing that shot is going to hurt. Like, let's be honest, Goldie. Every once in a while, you take that puck to an area and soon as it's about to hit, you're like, oh shoot, this one's going to hurt, right?
Yeah.
And you feel it and it sucks. But as goaltenders, we have pretty decent padding.
Yep.
To the shot blocking forwards and defenders out there, we do love you when you do block it and not tip it by us. But we do love it when you block that shot, and we know how much that damn thing hurts. Right?
Yes. Yeah, no, we've every goalie's been hit by a puck in the areas where they don't have pads, and I'm not going to elaborate on that one. Because it could be anywhere, right?
We don't want to taint this conversation.
Yeah, we don't want to taint this conversation. But no, there's going to be times where you get it to the neck, you get it to areas where you just don't have pads, and it sucks. There's no other way to say it. But hey, that's the job we decided to do. And then we're going to look at the goals from last night. Verhaeghe scores again. He's on a hot streak. Rodriguez scores a second goal in the second period, and in the third, they scored a goal per period.
Yeah,
which is very intriguing for me as an outside viewer of, I don't have a favorite in this race, but that's just that shows depth in every period. Like usually you'll see a team really, really good in the first and really, really good in the third, or really good in the third and not so good in the first. This team, I think, is a well-oiled machine that's, scoring on all levels, every period.
Now, one thing that Oilers fans, okay, so the bright light is, if you're peppering the amount of shots you're getting on net, you're going to get one here. It's going to happen.
Yep.
You've got too much talent on your team.
Yep.
The only thing that's concerning, okay, so their shot production was great, 12, 13, and in the third period when it counted the most, to drop to 7. Now, you're having the Florida Panthers play a lot more defense-minded things, keeping the puck in deep, because you got a 2-goal lead. You don't need to be taking silly chances at that point, right?
Yep.
Because one of my buddies asked me, that's, he knows hockey, but not the way I do. And, again, what are they doing down here? And I'm like, well, they're cycling the puck in the corner, right? They're eating up time, maintaining possession while wearing down the other team, right?
Yep.
And then if they're going to take a shot at this point, it's when they know they've got the team vulnerable. And, and the worst thing you can do, because this always makes me laugh, is the guy coming on down, takes a look far side and lets a ripper go top shelf, and it hits the glass and it rims around, and everybody that knows hockey goes, oh God, this is a perfect time for a counter strike to get a goal, right?
Yeah.
Those missed shots. So I didn't see Florida taking any high risk shots either in that period. Yeah. The Oilers started the game better than the Panthers did, but the Panthers capitalized on their opportunities. Again, Bob, they kept trying to beat Bob Lowe. On their breakaways. You got to elevate the puck. You got to elevate the puck. You're not going to beat him. Just square. He's so athletic, so strong on his skates, so flexible. You watch 3 incredible pad saves on him, right? And he's tall. Goalie is the only time the tall goaltender thing, comes in for a few things. And it's just and that's the reality in this situation, is the fact that he's a great athlete. Like, he's fun to watch. Yeah. But he's so flexible, and he's got that leg span, right? So when he drops and he pushes over cross and he flexes that leg out, he covers the net like that. It was like the Carey Price was great for that too, right?
Yeah.
So
Carey Price was known for wearing tiny baby pads. So he's 6'1", 6'2", and he wears a pad, I believe, that's like an inch bigger than mine. So that was always kind of mind-boggling to me. But hey, you wanna put a bet down on who's gonna score the first goal? Go check out this ad from our sponsor, DraftKings.
Hey, how's it going, hockey fans? The chase for the Stanley Cup continues, and the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, is just as hot as it is on the ice. With same-game parlays, live betting, odds boost, and so much more, don't miss out as the Stanley Cup playoffs wind down. Right now, the Edmonton Oilers are at plus 110 to win the cup, and the Florida Panthers at a negative 130. And don't be like me and give your buddies good advice without betting, such as picking the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers to make the cup finals. And if you're new to DraftKings, you got to check this out. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sports app now and use the code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY. 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after insurance. See dkng.co/ice for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms and responsibility gaming resources. Copy NHL 2024, all rights reserved.
And well, but speaking about that, Goldie, I've got yet another witness, because it's funny when these things come up, right? So some of Steve's predictions have been pretty darn good. And the very first year that the Golden Knights made the playoffs, before the draft even happened, I had two witnesses. One unfortunately passed away from cancer. He was big in the hockey community here in Arizona, Matt Schott, young guy, great guy. But I had Schott on over for a barbecue, and we were just talking with another buddy, and he just asked, well, what do you think about the Golden Knights? I said it's a different era in the expansion. I said, these are a bunch of good players. Your second and third line players now aren't like they were, especially your third line in the 1980s or 90s, where the guys could play a bit. You know, the Detroit Red Wings really revolutionized the third and fourth line, making sure they were stacked, right? But now a second line player can play on the first line. A third line player can bump up and down that lineup. And those guys were all used to doing that. And they drafted some underachievers. You know, Riley Smith was an example of it, right? They snagged him, you know, and they were a good team. So I said they were either just going to finish just outside a playoff spot. I said, but my gut instinct is that they just squeak into the playoffs. They didn't just squeak in, they made it.
They made it, yeah.
So that was one of my big ones. Last year, me throwing out the Florida Panthers making the Cup Finals, people thought I was insane, but I could see that team coming together. You know, I could see it.
Coming together at the right time, too, right at the end of the year. It's the same thing with the Detroit Red Wings this year. They gamed together right at the end of the season. Obviously didn't make the Stanley Cup, playoffs because of win percentage and all that kind of stuff. I seriously think they should have made the playoffs, but we'll talk about that in a later episode. But yeah, no, Steve, it's definitely something where.
But hold on, Goldie. There's one more. There's one more from last night.
You've had some beauties.
Last night, I'm sitting in DraftKings. You will appreciate this. My buddy who does like to gamble looked at me and said, so Steve, we're at the bar. Who's scoring tonight? And the very first name to go off my lips was Verhaeghe. I said, he's a playoff guy. He's getting one tonight. And he went with that. And then for the Oilers right away, I said Draisaitl. I said, Draisaitl. I said, I have a feeling McDavid's not getting one tonight. I said, but he's going to set something up if they get a goal here. I said, but it's going to be a tight game. So there's not going to be a lot of goals. So my buddy made some money off the Verhaeghe thing because as soon as I said it, he went and plugged it in. And he's making money off of my playoff predictions of, I did it, Florida versus the Oilers.
Yep. Yeah, no.
And to me, they were just, like I said, I think going back to this, because in previous podcasts, I watched that Avalanche Oilers game. I think that was in February, and it was one of the best hockey games I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm not even exaggerating. It was, I was tired. I wanted to go to bed, and I was like, I can't. This is amazing. So I just had that instinct of like, no, McDavid's doing it this year. Now, Oilers fans, if it doesn't work out in your advantage, you're going to be back because you've just seen next level McDavid, and I still don't think he's tapped out yet.
I don't think he's tapped out, and I don't think they're out of this series yet in game one. But
I'm even talking about Goldie tapped out with what he can do with his game.
No,
because this year, his mission to go get 100 assists. Next year it's just going to be like, okay, so now I'm going to go back and work on a few other techniques to score goals, correct? And like when I say correct stuff, it's correct. It's him correcting it on his insane level, right? Like, my goodness. But just like Crosby, he's got that insane, work ethic, right? Yeah. So you're going to see another version of McDavid, coming in. And again, I think McDavid is injured. I'm going to call that one out right now because he's just not shooting the way he was, and he missed a few games at the end of the year. But God, that guy's ability to turn on a dime and like the most insane speed, hand-eye coordination I've ever seen in my life. So,
and I'm gonna say something that may be a little bit controversial, but I think that if he slows his game down, he takes it to a whole new level.
well, but
Because
okay.
and that's something where, like, I've talked to some buddies about it. He's using his speed a lot, but if he starts slowing his game down, and he has been recently, not speed wise, but kind of taking more time to make passes. Obviously his assist totals are way up this year from previous, and I think that's a testament to him changing his game around and not being a selfish player and realizing, hey, I have to get these other guys the puck too to be able to win hockey games. But I think that if he were to slow down his game slightly, I think it would honestly benefit him a little more, because then when he turns it on, it's more of a shock than it is even now, right? And as he gets older, obviously he'll slow down a bit, but I don't see him getting to, super slow anytime soon.
Well, but Goldie, I'll back you on this one because it's not that controversial. When you look at two guys who are masters of shielding a puck and making plays, like Draisaitl's good at that, right? Draisaitl gets that puck and he knows how to use his reach. He knows how to shield the puck. But Patrick Kane and Pavel Datsyuk were two legends at it. Datsyuk, he could be onto the puck and a guy could be, and the same thing with Kane. A guy can go to check him and he's just ready for it, uses that momentum and spins off. Once McDavid looks at that aspect of the game and he gets that, plus you're saying it's like the change of momentum, right? When McDavid explodes and goes, you're not catching him. He's gone. You have to trip or hook him. He is gone.
Every time that I think about McDavid's speed, I think about Pacioretty backing up in that outdoor game. Oh no, that was McKinnon. But it's the same thing. It's every time that a fast guy's coming at you, it's oh no. And I remember watching that game, and then they played that, and he gets scored on it. Pacioretty does, not Pacioretty, Pietrangelo rather. My bad. I'll correct that later. But he's backing up, and all you hear, he's got a mic on, and he's like, oh no, not this guy. And it's that you got to imagine that's happening more than once with McDavid and McKinnon and even Makar now, flying up the wing as a defenseman. I mean, could you imagine if something happens and those guys end up playing with Connor McDavid at some point in their careers?
Well, that's why we want the Olympics, dude.
Yeah. Well, if you're a Canadian, you want the Olympics that way. If you're, but then your goaltending becomes an issue. We'll talk about that.
Yeah,
later.
We'll do the recap of international goaltenders in another episode.
Yes.
But so going back to our main point though about the Oilers, they're definitely not out of this series. It's just when I look at this team, the Florida Panthers hockey team, they are built top to bottom, first through fourth line. They are frigging solid. They are so solid, and any one of their lines can score.
Yep.
Barkov is, he's not McDavid, but he is elite, and he can burn you in so many different ways, right? Tkachuk has not been a major factor in the last couple rounds, but if all of a sudden Tkachuk finds his game, and it's not saying he's playing bad, but if he finds that scoring touch, now they're in trouble. They've got so many weapons to score. Edmonton does beat them in the speed department. No ands, ifs, and buts about it. In the first 5 minutes of the game was full on display, that they were coming in blitzing, and then Bob did what he needed to do. He shut them down in that first period. And if he does this again, if Bob comes out like this again, he's going to get in their heads, right? He's going to get in their heads. And again, you watch Skinner's goals, there's not much he could do about them. Once a push off across, like he makes that save on Verhaeghe. It's another save of the playoffs. It's a beautiful pass. It's a bang shot right in the net from a playoff performer. And then one from Rodriguez, he ripped that good shot from, and again, it comes exploding out from behind that net to a wide open guy. Skinner makes the push, but you don't even have time to react. That hit Rodriguez's stick and it was off and right over the shoulder, perfectly placed. So it was a really good hockey series. And there's some beat writers that I follow on X, Angles, for the Canadians, he said it and I agree. Like I never made that post, but I 100% agreed with it, that this is going to be a really fun series. And he said that within the first 5 minutes of the game. And this is going to be a very fun Cup Finals. Now, Goldie, we will go back into this in another podcast, but we all agree that, from our perspective, the Cup Finals was it really was the Rangers versus the Florida Panthers. Again, Edmonton Oilers fans, I'm not insulting your team.
No,
You've got a great hockey team there that just needs a few tweaks, and I'm sure you guys could agree with that. But
the West was easy to get through this year in my eyes, and that was just. And I'm not saying that to put a damper on any Edmonton Oilers fans. I'm a huge Jack Campbell fan. I really want you guys to have the success. Put his fucking name on the cup. But and Steve's laughing here because I dropped.
Hey guys, just so you know, I'm the one with the reputation of the potty mouth.
Yes. But put his name on the cup. And I really want you guys to have the success, but the West was just easy to get through. You went through the Kings, who had an awful goaltending situation, and just didn't. I had the Kings beating the Oilers because I thought that's kind of how that was going to go. I thought Stuart Skinner wasn't going to play well, and it ended up being the goaltender battle of who was worse, I think. And I think the Kings came out worse in that one, obviously. And then you got next after that. Who did they play after that? Vancouver.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you got Vancouver, who probably gave you the biggest run for your money that you're going to have all year until, the Cup Final, obviously. And then you had Dallas, who was banged up and did not perform well. And I think that –
And that Dallas team is a team. But you know what I've seen about that Dallas team, though, is
inconsistency.
And they, a couple of years ago when they made the Cup Finals, right? They ran out of gas. You could just see it. Tampa just walked them because they just ran out of gas. And they do have some good, young, exciting players. That Wyatt Johnson, my God, what a draft pick he was. But they got some also Stankoven. He's your workhorse for the time to come, right? You guys are probably going to run into cap trouble, and we'll get into that in another episode. But there was a good team, but you just looked worn down because by the time it hit, games 3, 4, that's when Edmonton looked like the fresher squad out there.
Yeah.
Again, a tight series, but if we had put, in my opinion, Florida in the Eastern Conference, the Rangers in the West, they were colliding. It was going to happen.
Yeah, and they're colliding, and I think the Rangers aren't as banged up as they were going into that series. I mean, the East, watching the East and the West this season as almost, taking myself outside of it. The East is hard-hitting hockey. The West is all finesse. And that's just kind of – obviously, there's teams that can hit on the West. I'm not saying that's the case at all. But, I mean, you got a lot more, finesse guys on the West. You got, Zegras. You got – guys like Kempe, they're not going to go and run you through the boards, right? Those guys are, as Ziegler said, 130 pounds soaking wet. So, and then you got the big boys on the East, and it's always that collision at the end. And typically, the Eastern Conference teams out-hit the Western Conference teams, and it's those Western Conference teams like the Kings that could throw the hits too, back in 2014 and 2012. And the Blackhawks there.
Well, but let's go back to But let's go back to that point about the Kings back then, because the Kings were a good all-around team, but the Kings were very physical and very big. They played a power game, but they had people that could put the puck in, and they had a good goaltender. The East kind of is flipping the switch on that, and they're modeling it off of those type of teams.
The Blackhawks, the Kings, those teams that beat them for years in and years out, and then Pittsburgh came along and kind of showed that, hey, the Eastern Conference teams can play that gritty style with finesse. And now that's really picked up in the East. And I think the West has kind of lost that gritty style. They've gone more finesse. Just my opinion, though. I'm not going to claim to be.
And again, we know, like, there's McNabb on the Knights that if he catches you, he's going to knock you through the boards.
Yes.
There's Manson off of the Colorado Avalanche. Same thing. He catches you, he's going to tag you. There's good hitters. There's good physical players out there. Yes. But just watching the way that these teams collided in the Eastern Conference, this year, it was just the Rangers were on another level, and so were the Panthers. Now, again, everybody, you've got McDavid and Draisaitl, and I know there's more to your team than those two players.
Hyman.
Hyman, again, probably the biggest mistake the Toronto Maple Leafs made was letting him go, but they've got some great players out there. I didn't notice Kane at all last night, though. He did not make an impact.
Well, he's left the game a couple times in the last few games, just gone down the tunnel, not looked 100%. I don't think he's a big playmaker anymore, to be frankly honest with you. I think
he's your physical agitator that can get out there, grind things down.
Yeah,
he can pot you the occasional goal. He goes hard to the net. That's his style. So, like I said, he was a non-factor for me in yesterday's game. But again, the Oilers got their chances, and that's the recap of it is in my opinion, the more complete team played the more complete game. But I always love this comment from people, right? Is that, that's, the comment about the goalie, like we're not part of the team. And I would hear years about the Montreal Canadiens. Oh, you're nothing without Price. Well, he's on our team. So as a Montreal Canadiens fan, you're right. If Price wasn't on my team, we're a lot worse team. But how many teams? So taking Quick out of this equation, right? So let's just say they didn't have Jonathan Quick. You take Shesterkin off the Rangers. How good are the Rangers? If you put in, let's say it was Stuart Skinner over on the Rangers lineup in net. Are you winning the President's Trophy with him?
No, you're not.
So that my basic point behind this, hockey fans, is I hate the line of you're nothing without your goalie. Well, it is a critical part of the game, and they made a conscious decision. The Montreal Canadiens took flack for picking Carey Price as high as they did when they did, and that's why you do that. The Florida Panthers took a lot of heat for paying Bobrobsky the amount of money that they paid him. The last 2 years in a row, that contract is damn well worth it.
Especially if you end up winning a cup this year. That's
the big icing on the cake. But 2 years in a row, he's done it.
And he's probably going to win the Vezina this year.
And I don't see Bob slowing down next year. Now, if they're going to be smart, I'm hoping and so bad for a healthy Spencer Knight to come back and be that backup for the Florida Panthers and to find his game again, because he was fun to watch.
Now that the cap has been officially raised to $88 million next year, it does take some pressure off of these teams with major cap issues. We'll get into that in a later episode.
Yeah, actually, we'll touch on that a bit in our next episode. Yes, we're going to go over a few. We're gonna drop the name here on our social media of what we're calling when we do this. It's always entertaining. But hey, Goldie, I think this is a perfect spot to leave it off. And as you're always gonna notice with me and Goldie, we go on tangents. We start off with a very directed podcast, and it just takes one thing, and then we're flying.
And you know what? That sometimes what makes the best podcasts in the world is those ones that you start talking about hockey and you kind of go down that rabbit hole. Those are the most fun for me to listen to, when you start talking about, because we didn't leave the topic, right? We didn't go to crazy topics. We just started talking about things within the topic, which is really good. But no, I'm actually going to show the clip of that save that Bobrobsky made real quick here.
It's a thing of freaking
It's beauty. A thing of beauty. And let's share this screen real quick with you. I'm hoping.
And just so you guys know, I got the young guy on the technology portion of this.
Yes. All right, and now we're going to show you guys that great save by Bobrobsky to kind of end things off here. It's obviously on a Edmonton power play. He makes a great initial save right here. And then 2-pad stack. What a save. It's filthy. It's nasty. It's exactly what we want to see.
Pure Sherwood, dude. Pure Sherwood on that save.
Yeah, and it is amazing. So that is definitely, save of that. That's the second best save of the playoff. Bobrobsky has the first already, with the behind the back save. Definitely make sure to follow us on all of our social media. We are PostHuggersPod on X and PostHuggersPodcast on everything else, Instagram, Threads, YouTube. Go follow our YouTube. Obviously, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to subscribe.
If you're old like me, jump on Facebook.
Yes, we have a Facebook group now called the Posthuggers Podcast. Come join us. We talk everything hockey in there, and we're going to be doing some things in there that's going to be very, very exciting very, very soon. Definitely shoot us a follow. Comment down below who you think is going to take game 2 of this series. And definitely don't be afraid to send us any saves you have on our Instagram. We will be we're collecting a bunch right now, and then we'll be doing a podcast where we literally show save after save after save. And if you want to share some good goals, that McDavid goal that he scored against Dallas will be in that already. So definitely shoot us some more goals. Because obviously we're goaltenders. We have a goaltender bias. So we're not going to be looking for those great goals. So definitely send us those. This has been Heath and Steve.
Have a great one, hockey fans.
Thank you so much for listening. Have a great one.